11 years ago, in 2015, The Last of Us speedrunners started finding and implementing skips and any % exclusive tricks in their speedruns. In the following decade, the world record time to beat the game got cut by around 50 minutes, going from a 3-hour run to a potential 212 now. Modern The Last of Us speedruns feature all kind of different tricks. There are huge skips where we go out of bounds and move, swim or launch to a later part of the game, sometimes skipping an entire chapter. There are death warps, item duplications, enemy despawns and other tricks. However, The Last of Us speedrunners are faced with one big problem, one barrier we could say, that prevents them from going even faster: the checkpoint system. Over the years, we found so many out of bounds, so many tricks to get to a later part of the game, but the checkpoint system hinders us to ultimately make the skips work. If I had a guess, I would say that over 90% of the out of bounds we found in the game are useless for the speedrun, and we actually are able to use quite a lot of them. In this video, I want to show what The Last of Us speedrun would look like and what time would be possible if more checkpoints were active in the game. I won't show you any unrealistic scenario like, oh, what if we could fly across the map with a debug menu? For that, I recommend you ThrillUK's video How Broken The Last of Us Could Be If It Had Uncharted Glitches, where he essentially did show and explore this exact idea. For this video, I want to show you strats that are completely developed, except for the checkpoint not being active right at the end. All the tricks and skips I show are possible on a default copy of the game on a default PS3, 4 or 5. This also won't be a video in which I just show you all the out of bounds we have. I might do a separate video on that. So let's begin. Which strats would be possible if The Last of Us had more checkpoints? Right at the beginning of the game, even before our first enemy encounter, after getting up here we have to press triangle to trigger this in-game cutscene. This gets followed by a movement section where we move to the basement of this building, approaching the injured guy. Before pressing triangle and triggering the in-game cutscene, we can actually just climb up to the right, which completely skips the cutscene. This gets followed by a faster movement speed, and we also can climb the ladder before Tess. Joel also doesn't need to put on the gas mask, making our movement even faster. However, pressing triangle here doesn't do anything, and the 5 checkpoints that were in between are all inactive since it's a checkpoint condition to activate the in-game cutscene at the beginning, so restarting checkpoint puts us all the way back to the beginning. If the triangle prompt or the checkpoint next to it would work, this trick would save around 25 seconds. Just a few minutes later in Slums, we have to kill 3 enemies as quickly as possible and grab the key from the last enemy to open the door to continue to the next fight, in which we then have 5 more enemies. There is a glitch exclusive to the dropped key. If we pick up the key and then hit the triangle prompt for the door just a few frames later, the door magically opens and the little sequence gets skipped. Not only that, the next 5 enemies also won't be there. Unfortunately, it's not possible to hit the checkpoint that we get after the fight. The game basically thinks we're still in the previous fight, since that little sequence on the door is what activates the checkpoint. If we go back to the door and hit the triangle prompt again, the game just plays the sequence normally as if nothing happened and we can continue. If we could just do the door glitch and then approach the triangle prompt on the gate, this would save up to 10 seconds. For this third Slums fight here, there is actually something bigger. In 2016, MadMad found a zip glitch. When we take a human enemy as a hostage, aim, and then wiggle left and right, the model of the hostage zips around. When quickly letting go of aim and initiating a kill, Joel will then teleport towards where the hostage is, leaving us with many different results. This is one of the glitches that is still not understood well, but here in the Slums fight, we can take a hostage, move onto these stairs, and actually teleport to the next part of the game. This basically skips the entire fight and the in-game cutscene and puts us to the beginning of the robot chase, with no enemies around. Usually there are like 8 enemies here. We can even run towards the next section and Tess will spawn in here and she can even play her dialogue. But unfortunately, just as previously, the next triangle prompt won't do anything and the checkpoint for entering here is not active. If the triangle prompt or the checkpoint were active, this skip would save around 40 seconds. The next skip I want to show you includes a somewhat new trick. In 2024 I found a universal method to clip through walls, even though there are some limits to it. All we need is an upgraded melee weapon, sprint speed and an NPC that's standing next to a wall, which is pretty simple since they will always follow us and we can push them around too. From here we just need a sprint melee swing and we can clip through the wall. Since this method is kinda new, this is not featured in the current world records yet. However, I found a few skips with it that ultimately save around 2.5 minutes. The first one is a Bill's Town skip, where we use 3 of these wall clips to get from the beginning of the chapter all the way to the doggy door fight, skipping multiple in-game cutscenes, fights and maintaining sprint speed for the duration of the entire multiple minutes long skip. However, the checkpoint for the doggy door fight is the latest checkpoint that's active and the furthest we can go with this skip. If The Last of Us had more active checkpoints, we could extend this skip even further, basically until the truck push fight, which is the final fight in Bill's Town, and this potential skip looks amazing, it's one of my favorites. So here in Doggy Door, after performing the Bill's Town skip, we would usually continue to the outside high school fight. Then enter the high school, face the bloater in the gym and then reach the truck push section. At the end of Doggy Door, we could do another wall clip with Ellie's or Bill's help and get through this door here. Side fact, this also works on any other wall that leads to this section, like the wall to our right here. This would skip Ellie crawling through the door and the clickers also don't spawn in here. Usually there is a checkpoint right when dropping down from the treehouse, which is inactive since the doggy door is what activates it, so this would already be a small skip. However, we can go way further with this. In the garage, we can perform a wall clip on the gate, clipping right into the next infected fight outside the high school. If the checkpoint for the fight was active, this would save a dozen seconds. For the outside high school fight, there are all sorts of glitches. In our speedruns, we perform a death warp here, by killing both Joel and the last runner on the same frame, saving quite some time and duplicating ammo. The movement before the fight is actually quite important. Before the fight, we want to lure Bill into the garage to make him go faster, which we do by running over an invisible trigger right next to it. This is also the trigger for the next section. If we now move into the garage after Bill said "gimme a hand with this", which means we once again run over the trigger, it will delay the loadings for the next section. Enemies and the collision of the map will spawn in later. For our runs, this has little to no effect, but one potential skip here was found by MadMad. The trick is to switch to 30 FPS before the garage, which will delay the load times even more, which then makes it possible for us to get behind this fence before the collision loads in. We quickly need to pause though, because no collision also means Joel would fall through the floor behind the fence. When it's loaded in, we're now in the section that comes after the fight. The triangle prompt for the cutscene is not there though. Then we also have a few quick turn despawns here. Quick turn despawns were found by Thrill in 2022. When initiating a quick turn with Joel, punching quickly and then initiating another quick turn, the camera spins around in a way that makes the camera clip through the wall for a split second. The game sees the camera as an indicator of our position and thinks that we have left the area, therefore sometimes despawning an area, loading in the next area or despawning enemies. Now it's getting funny. I wrote a whole paragraph for this video on how the despawns for this section don't do much, are slower than the strat we already have, or underlie certain conditions, until I actually found a working way to despawn this fight while recording stuff for this video. Let me show you the brand new strat that I found 2 days ago. It saves 5 seconds.
Ellie, run! Run! Well, that was easier than I thought it'd be.
I know, the strat looks fairly simple, but the way this strat works is a technical miracle, which is also the reason why this hasn't been found yet. I can't explain it here since I want to focus on potential skips, not actual working skips that we can use for runs, but I made an unlisted explanation video for the other speedrunners. I put it into the description in case you want to watch that. These were a few things we could do here, but let me show you a huge potential skip that I found a few months ago. So we want to perform a wall clip on the left side here, but in order to perform a wall clip with the help of NPCs, the NPCs can't be in a state of active combat, because that way they will rather lean on walls, trying to hide from enemies and therefore have a different hitbox, making wall clips impossible. So first we want to go to the right here and perform a quick turn despawn to get rid of all the enemies. As a result, Bill and Ellie are out of combat and we can do a wall clip. From here we can run around the entire map. I open photo mode from time to time to show you where we currently are. We basically ran around the outside high school fight and are next to the high school and the gym now. You know, where the bloater fight takes place. As soon as we enter the next loading zone of the chapter, we need to pause or use photo mode, which works like a pause, because the previous map will deload now, which would make Bill and Ellie fall through the map and then automatically restart the checkpoint. Pausing makes the next area load in and therefore spawn in Bill and Ellie here too. When it's loaded, we can unpause, and here we actually have some kind of miracle. By the way, you can see Bill and Ellie loaded in there. Usually it would be impossible for us to get back in bounds from here. However, Naughty Dog actually put a truck here as a wall that's also faced backwards, meaning when in bounds, you only see the back of the truck, being unable to climb. But since we're out of bounds, we're faced to the front of the truck, actually being able to climb it and then jump back in bounds. This is insane. From here we could continue normally, climb the ladder and trigger the cutscene that leads to the truck push fight. The cutscene where we find Frank. The cutscene and the checkpoints are inactive though. If we could perform this big skip in a run, it would save around 1.5 minutes, probably closer to 2 minutes with the extended skip at the doggy door from earlier. The next potential skip takes place in Pittsburgh. In this area where we see the Fort Pitt Bridge, without glitches we would go into the hotel, which consists of multiple fights and sections, leave through the restaurant, into the financial district fight, have a minute-long in-game cutscene, another fight, and then we would reach the fight with the triangular building. We skip all of this in our any % runs. The Pittsburgh skip we currently do in our runs is probably the most known skip of the game. The skip with the richest history, the one that saves the most time out of all skips, and the way we perform it basically hasn't changed in the last 11 years since Thrill found it in 2015.
Let's try that again.
Yes! Yes!
The way it works is we clip out of bounds with a pallet, swim towards this corner, set up our angle, and then swim towards the checkpoint of the fight with the triangular building. A checkpoint that's actually active the entire time. When leaving this box of water, Joel gets softlocked and we can't change our direction anymore, which is why the angle is so important. Diving allows us to at least change our height by swimming up or down. After the Pittsburgh skip, we would end up at the tank fight, then meet Henry and Sam, have a fight during daytime, the searchlight fight during nighttime, a fight in a bar and another escape from the tank, which would then lead into the sewers. A potential skip here is to go to the very left side of the water and swim towards this direction. This way we could reach multiple different checkpoints if they were active. We could get to the first fight with Henry and Sam. We could get to the in-game cutscene where Ellie picks up Sam's robot toy. And we could actually get to the searchlight section. Every checkpoint and cutscene here is inactive though. If we could have an extended Pittsburgh skip and just swim towards the searchlight fight checkpoint, this skip would save around 3 minutes over the current Pittsburgh skip. Going back to the tank fight, this is right where an even bigger potential skip is. A few years ago I managed to get out of bounds here with a zip glitch. When recording clips for this video I found out that this also works with wall clips and it's incredibly easier and way more consistent. When escaping the tank and entering this house, we can do a quick restart checkpoint to bring Ellie here and leave combat mode. Then wall clip outside the building again, Ellie will follow us and then we can do another wall clip here, being fully out of bounds now. From here we can run towards the section after searchlight where we will run away from the tank. We need to pause here to load in the area and to bring Ellie here, and then we could just run towards the cutscene to enter the sewers chapter, skipping the entirety of meeting Henry and Sam and searchlight. This is the cutscene where Joel and Ellie jump from the bridge and become unconscious. What's crazy is we actually couldn't even hit it starting from the bar, just next to it. The condition for the cutscene is the triangle prompt on the chained door. If this cutscene was active, this skip would save around 4.5 minutes and would therefore be even better than the extended Pittsburgh skip. Doing the extended Pittsburgh skip would make this skip here impossible though, so for our total time save I have to go with this skip and therefore add 1.5 minutes to it. Let's go back to the Henry and Sam section, since there are a few things too. In the first fight we can perform a deload on the wall, which then despawns all the enemies for a few seconds. However, we can't get the checkpoint for finishing the fight, but instead the game respawns all the enemies again, always and infinitely, meaning we could kill the 3 enemies, do the deload, they would spawn in again and repeat. We can actually get inside the next room with a wall clip, but there is nothing here either. Hitting the checkpoint behind the door could save a few seconds. Right after that, after the cutscene entering Searchlight, we can do a deload on the wall, which removes collision and makes us fall down. We can fall into the Searchlight fight, but unfortunately there is no checkpoint we can hit from here and Joel will always die. Hitting the fight checkpoint from here would save a few seconds. Let's go to the next big thing, the dam chapter. By the way, if I didn't mention a chapter like downtown or the sewers, this probably means that we actually have working skips there, so I don't feature them here since this video is about potential skips. For sewers, for example, we have a huge and working skip already. So, the dam is actually one of the biggest mysteries this game has to offer. For the longest time, speedrunners believed in a dam skip since there is just so much potential, and this chapter has some of the oldest out of bounds in the game's history. You would see people talk about the dam skip frequently in speedrunners' streams, and it still gets mentioned from time to time. Us glitch hunters unfortunately have stopped a few years ago, since it seems impossible to hit any checkpoints. Let's go through the dam chapter real quick. It begins with a movement section, we then meet Tommy and Maria, they will show us the dam during another movement section, then we get ambushed and fight on the dam, Ellie is pissed and runs away with one of Tommy's horses, we have a horse riding section going after her in which we encounter enemies in the forest fight, and we then end up at the end of the chapter at the ranch house. That's the whole chapter. Right at the beginning of the chapter at the waterworks, there is a wall we can just climb on and get out of bounds. It really is that easy. From here, there are so many different possibilities, let me quickly show you a few ideas. From the water, we can swim right to the section where the ambush on the dam takes place. We can also go to the cutscene where Joel and Tommy fight. We can go to the beginning of the horse section where Ellie ran away from us and we have to go after her. And we can also go towards the left side of the map after getting out of bounds, towards the section where we meet Tommy and Maria. It is also possible to use this out of bounds to backtrack and go to the beginning of the chapter again. You might have already noticed, but I say it, we can basically go anywhere in the entire dam chapter. Every single loading zone, every single map, every potential checkpoint, every fight and section in the entire dam chapter can get reached from here. Let me show you what the biggest potential skip looks like. From the out of bounds, we would first backtrack into the previous water section. This is so we can get a bit lower on the map to swim underneath the map in the following part. This is necessary because the following swimming section will be so long that we have to swim normally instead of diving. We would just drown if we would dive. But that also means that we can't even change our height after leaving the water zone. From here we want to swim in this direction and then basically just let Joel swim for 2 entire minutes. Then we hit a loading zone where we have to pause, otherwise Ellie will fall off the map. When it loaded, we can unpause and then just let Joel swim, or rather float, again. On the left, we can see the section where the horse ride takes place, and swimming to this direction here, we could also reach the forest fight section. What we're going for though is even bigger. We're actually floating towards the ranch house here. After a bit we reach the house. We can actually go from the beginning of the Dam chapter to the very end of it at the ranch. If checkpoints or cutscenes were active here, this would be one of the biggest skips. This one would save around 5 minutes. Unfortunately for us, the way The Last of Us got coded, it becomes more skip-proof the further we are into the game. The earlier chapters of the game have big skip potential and many active checkpoints. The later chapters from Dam onwards work entirely different. Their checkpoint conditions are so strict, it's almost impossible to skip anything really. In fact, here in Dam, we could not even hit the checkpoint after high-fiving Ellie without going the normal way with a pallet, and this wouldn't even really skip much. If we continue and go the normal way, there is actually another out of bounds here in the corner. This is just as easy as the previous one. The reason I show this to you is because this out of bounds actually got uploaded on YouTube by the Last of Us YouTube channel. The video is not available anymore and I can't say for certain that this is an official channel. But 13 years ago I saw the videos this channel uploaded and back then I believed this was the official Last of Us channel. It got created in 2006, has the official handle and uploaded the very first Last of Us videos in 2011. Isn't it crazy? Why would they randomly upload that out of bounds to YouTube? Pretty much the very first out of bounds in the game, uploaded 13 years ago by the official Last of Us channel, and to this day it's basically the only chapter in the game where it doesn't lead to anything at all. Were the devs playing with us? Is there anything we don't know yet? Who knows? Times like back then, where Matt and Thrill were uploading videos like this and people were speculating about a skip, are definitely among my favorite memories for this game. Maybe this mystery gets solved one day. Continuing the chapter, there are a few more things. In the Dam fight we can despawn all the enemies with a deload on this wall. However, this doesn't give us the checkpoint and Tommy will just die, which restarts the checkpoint. Even if this worked, I'm not even sure if it would save time. In the last room of the fight, we can actually perform a deload on this wall that despawns all the enemies and ends the fight. However, this also despawns Maria, who is actually the one that triggers the next cutscene. You can see that the fight is over and we lose our sprint speed, but here we are actually soft-locked now. This one probably also wouldn't save time. In the next section we're on the horse, and the horse comes with new possibilities for out of bounds. There are multiple different ways to get out of bounds with the horse, and in general it works when squeezing the horse into a tight space, which then forces the game to push it out, which we can use to get pushed out of bounds. This works here, next to the truck for example. With the correct movement and angle, we can get pushed through the wall. From here it's the same as before. We can go anywhere we want now, but no checkpoints are active. In fact, for this horse section there are even invisible and unknown smaller checkpoint conditions in between checkpoints. So let's say we have checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2, and both of them are visible for us players. If we hit checkpoint 1, then go out of bounds and try to hit checkpoint 2, we still can't hit it because there is some invisible checkpoint 1.5 in between that needs to get hit too. That's how tight the checkpoint system is in the later parts of the game, and it's crazy because for other skips, like Pittsburgh skip, we're just skipping over 30 checkpoints and 4 fights easily, and here it's impossible to even slightly skip anything. That must be because different devs worked on different chapters, so they probably had different ways of programming them. With this out of bounds we can also just ride to the ranch. We can also get out of bounds on the right side here at the car, and it's also possible to adjust our height by moving closer to the default path. However, same as always, no checkpoints are active. The university chapter is kind of similar to the Dam chapter. We begin the chapter on the horse, move right into a fight with infected, continue riding the horse until we need to go around a building in which we encounter another bloater. This gets followed by a horse ride to the science building, in which we then get attacked and have to escape. Joel gets impaled during this, and this section is a pretty long walking scene. Since we begin the chapter on the horse, we can use it to clip out of bounds right at the beginning. From here it's actually pretty simple and straightforward. We can move directly towards the science building, which comes at the end of the chapter. Side fact, Joel could actually not move around here like that, since there is no collision, there is no ground. If we would dismount the horse, Joel would fall down and die. For the horse, however, Naughty Dog didn't program a falling animation and therefore it can't fall down. So from a technical perspective, the horse is not really running here, it's actually flying. The same goes for the horse out of bounds in Dam. So continuing here, technically we can go to where the final in-game cutscene of science building takes place. The one where Joel leaves the building injured. If the cutscene was active here, we would save around 8.5 minutes. There are all kinds of earlier checkpoints that we could also reach, like the one next to this gate, but all of them are inactive. There is one interesting thing here though. Going out of bounds here, we can actually just run to a point that triggers the debug menu of the game. It's not the actual debug menu the devs use to change all kind of settings, but instead a free roam camera. With this, we can fly around the entire chapter at various different speeds. Joel is despawned at this point and we can use it to explore a bit. It's quite fun. Just as in Dam, there are more spots to go out of bounds with the horse, and it's also possible to adjust the height depending on how close we move along the default way. Also, just as in Dam, next to the big potential skip, there are some smaller potential skips too, and for University they are pretty cool and unique. Here, still at the beginning of the chapter, we can perform a deload on this wall. A normal deload wouldn't do anything, but if we add a close to frame perfect pause to it, that has to be done right in the moment of the deload, the game removes all the collision for a few seconds. We can use this to clip Joel through the wall and make him land on the other side. Performing this is way harder than it looks. However, on the other side, we continue a bit and then notice, oh, the barbed wire is in our way. But Ellie actually follows up. We can mount the horse and just continue for a bit longer, all the way to the basement where the fight with the bloater takes place. Here we unfortunately can't continue and the in-game cutscene for the fight is not active. It's a bit sad because this would skip both infected fights in University, and these are the only ones in this chapter. Technically there actually is a small skip here by going close to the gate and then going the normal way. It will zip Joel towards the in-game cutscene, but this is way slower than going the normal way. When next to this gate then, there are actually ways to clip through it and get to the other side, which is the area after the bloater section. For example, by clipping through it with the horse.
Oh, wait. Oh, yes.
Another way is the horse glitch that was found 2 months ago that I've explained in the previous video, where we press triangle on the horse but interrupt it by meleeing, which then makes the game think we mounted the horse even though we didn't. This changes Joel's hitbox significantly, and when triggering the triangle prompt to look at the generator, the game just clips Joel through the gate. However, there are no active checkpoints on the other side of the gate. When actually arriving on this side of the gate later, there are two potential skips we can perform and both of them are very interesting. On this wall here, we can perform a huge deload when adding a pause to it. This deload is so huge, even on PS5, it stays for a long time and it kinda despawns the entire chapter all the way to the science building. The thing is, it removes the collision too, so Joel would just fall through the map. Thrill found a way for another spot in the game where, if that happens, we can quickly open Joel's backpack, which also puts him into a state where he can't fall down. However, this is kinda useless here since we would just bleed time doing that, so I had to come up with something else. So what I was thinking was to position the horse right next to where we do the deload, then do the deload, pause, and right after unpausing we need to mash triangle to make Joel mount the horse, and as shown earlier, the horse can't fall down, and while on the horse we can actually move. The deload goes on for so long that we can get near the science building, which would have collision but still be deloaded. On PS5 it loads in just before we get there, but I believe there is a certain console or hardware combination that would make it possible to enter the science building without triggering its entrance in-game cutscene. We would then be able to get to the upper floor towards where the cutscene is that initiates the fight. However, this needs no further testing since the cutscene is inactive anyways. There is another trick in this area that actually does work. I found a very unique out of bounds here by using the cart. For carts and dumpsters, there is a trick where we can get behind it even though we pressed triangle at the front of it. I just showed a clip of it at the searchlight section, but in runs we actually use it for the museum skip. For the museum skip, we position the dumpster next to a wall, which is a very precise setup. We now have to get behind it, but the triangle prompt behind it is inactive since it's too close to the wall and the game disables it then. However, if we have a melee weapon in our hands, it also works with a gun, and then approach a triangle prompt, Joel first needs to put away the weapon before he starts pushing the object. So what we're doing here is we get the melee weapon out, run towards the triangle prompt, press it, and at the same time we hold up left or up right, which makes Joel move that way until he put the weapon away. The thing is, the side on which the game puts Joel is proximity based, and then we're actually closer to the back of the object, which then places Joel on the other side even though we hit the triangle prompt from the front. That trick makes museum skip possible, and that's also what I'm doing here in University. So I get out of bounds by doing that, and from here it's possible to climb some boxes and walls. We can move on this wall for a bit longer, but here we can go back and bounce, skipping the barbed wire and making it possible to get to this area without Ellie or the horse. However, the checkpoints here are inactive, which is a bit sad since this would look pretty cool in runs. But we can actually still perform this after activating the checkpoints. We don't have access to the card anymore then, but we can also get out of bounds here with the horse glitch, and the rest works the same. From here we can actually hit the checkpoint after the barbed wire, but doing this takes longer than just going the normal way, so this won't get used for runs. Now we are in winter, the part where we play as Ellie. In the first coal mine fight, Matt found an out of bounds here 11 years ago, when, being in our backpack, the game removes the player's collision. When David pushes the cupboard or whatever that thing is, we can clip into it with the backpack, then close the backpack and get pushed out of bounds. From here we can run around the map pretty freely, but there is no access to later parts of the chapter since it's kind of on a separate map, so it's really just the coal mine and there are also no active checkpoints. We can, however, get to the area of the second coal mine fight, the one where we have to fight the bloater and a crazy amount of infected. And there is a triangle prompt from a drawer that we can hit from outside. Ellie will teleport into this area, but she will fall through the floor. I won't take this out of bounds into account for the potential time saves, because for this one, it's really not possible to theorize hitting any checkpoints. All the other potential skips I've shown are very realistic and I was running over the actual checkpoint locations there. But for this one, the checkpoints get triggered by David and the ones that don't are impossible for us to get to. There is one really interesting thing here though. In the first coal mine fight, when standing in the correct spot, Ellie can actually get launched onto the roof when David tries to give ammo to her. David does that when Ellie's rifle ammo is empty. From here, we can just move along the path we would take after the fight, but it's impossible to hit any triggers. The reason why this is so interesting is because in the remake, you can get onto the roof with a glitch, drop through a hole, and then hit the trigger for the following in-game cutscene. When Thrill and Matt uploaded this video 2 years ago, I've tested this for the original game, and while that in-game cutscene is also active, it's impossible to fall through the hole in the original game. I then tested if I can hit the trigger from the side of the area, and I actually found a way to do so. There is a wall Ellie can only crouch under, but in order to hit this trigger, we need full sprint speed, so in order to reach it, we need a weapon switch glitch with a circle input to make the game think we're crouched. This is the crab walk I explained in the previous video. The sad thing is that while the in-game cutscene is active, we get softlocked right after. David will either not react or he won't even be here with us, so this was useless and I discarded this idea. However, a few days ago, while testing things for this video, I actually found a way to make this work. I was testing the out of bounds and this area on the emulator and actually found out that we won't get softlocked after the in-game cutscene when we hit it at a later point. The coal mine fight is so long, there are multiple checkpoints that we hit during the fight. And the reason this didn't work 2 years ago was because I tried to get to the in-game cutscene too early. To make this work, we basically have to finish the entire fight and kill all the enemies, and then approach the in-game cutscene. This only saves 10 seconds, but this means a lot to me. The out of bounds Matt found 11 years ago finally has a use for speedruns. The entire fight looks different now since we basically do it from out of bounds, and not only that, this is the first time ever there's an out of bounds that can get used in winter. For the last decade, no matter which category we play, no matter if running any percent or glitchless, easy mode or grounded mode, new game or new game plus, winter has mostly been the same. This is the first time there is a notable difference, and I only found this because I was working on this video. If we actually could hit the in-game cutscene right after clipping out of bounds, this would save 40 seconds, so this would be even 30 seconds faster than the strat I just found. Okay, let's continue. We're heading towards the end of the game now. In Tunnel, there are many different ways of getting out of bounds, but they all lead towards the same out of bounds area, which is a big water pond. We can get out of bounds by using a medkit or a weapon switch underwater, by clipping out of bounds with a pallet, and, which is the fastest and most efficient way, by jumping into the water at a certain spot and switching to a long gun just before hitting the water. From here, we once again have different paths we can choose. We can get onto the pipes that are above the puzzle area with a ladder, and from here move towards to where the bus sequence takes place. We can explore quite a bit here, but no trigger or checkpoint is active. The biggest potential time save in this area is to directly swim towards the place where we hit the cutscene that triggers the hospital. That's the cutscene where Ellie is unconscious and a firefly knocks Joel out. From our out of bounds area, we can basically swim directly towards it. It only requires a pause to not make Ellie fall off the map. In the far back, we can see Ellie's model, which is funny because we can see Ellie on the other side still. So there are two Ellies. The cutscene is inactive, but it looks funny to have Joel and Ellie here. If the cutscene was active and we would get here from the earliest point, this skip would save 4 minutes. The latest point we could clip out of bounds here is after dropping down on the bus. With a precise weapon switch we can clip through the floor, but even when getting out of bounds this late, the checkpoints are still not there. The last and final potential skip comes right at the end of the game, in Hospital. At the very end, when entering the operating room with the doctor, Larry or Bruce or whatever his name was, we can ignore them completely and climb onto the object to our left. From here we can jump onto another object to then get out of bounds. There are funny things we can do here, like making Ellie T-pose instead of laying in the bed, but for a potential skip, we would basically run across, right towards the elevator. This is the elevator that triggers the in-game cutscene at the end of this chapter, and it would skip carrying Ellie through the hospital. If this in-game cutscene was active, it would save around 20 seconds. And that is it. Combining all the biggest versions of the potential skips, if The Last of Us had more active checkpoints, we would save around 26 minutes and 15 seconds, making a final time of around 1 hour and 45 minutes possible. There is no doubt, finding a way to activate later checkpoints or to surpass certain checkpoint conditions would be the biggest discovery ever in this game. And probably the discovery we would need to one day push the speedrun of this game below the 2-hour mark. Thank you for watching, guys.